Welcome to the Seraphine Podcast. As usual, I haven't changed my name, Seraphina Roche here, and today I am with the beautiful Alyssa Rivera Adams. Hello.
Thank you. Hey, girl.
I am so glad we're sitting down today after we had the podcast with your husband. I just loved the vibe and the energy with him sitting there and you sitting there and this exchange of like, wow, you guys are, when I say the quintessential power couple, you really are. And I knew that I had to get you in the seat because when the way he was talking about you, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of the woman behind the man thing. And I'm like, I don't know. It seems like you guys get behind each other and kind of do that like little dance, which is appropriate because you both dance. It's pretty cool. So we're going to start out by you giving me a little bit of background so that the viewers kind of get a good picture of who you are, what you're about. Because you actually aren't originally from Kansas City. You're from Leavenworth, right?
Yes.
All right. So kind of start from there and what brought you to Kansas City?
Yeah. So Leavenworth, Kansas is where I was born and raised. Little town. So small town girl. Didn't really see Kansas City as a thing because I always saw it as like, oh, it's the city. So for me, it was overwhelming in a way. Yeah. So Leavenworth, Kansas is my home. It's where most of my family is on my mom's side. My dad, he's military.
That's what I thought. It's because of military town, right?
Yeah, it is a military town. So with him being military, he's from Miami. So when it comes to his side, he kind of shied us away from that. Not to say like he was wanting that to be a thing, but we just never really connected with the people in Miami or Puerto Rico, which is where my grandpa is from. Right. And so when it comes down to like Kansas City, getting out there, it was in my later years in my 20s when I was going into college and experimenting on things that I, would want to be a part of. And I honestly now want to become a city girl. Like I'm getting into that groove because I did like as a dancer, I'm a dancer and a professional with that. And so going into the dance world, I went to Kansas City to perform most of the time.
That's so interesting. So did you have parents that were supportive of that? Because I do believe that, I mean, when I was younger, my parents supported my ballet, but as soon as I started to kind of drift into wanting to go into cheerleading or performance style dance, they were pretty conservative and they were like, back into the studio. So were your parents always pretty supportive of you going into, again, traveling to Kansas City is not Leavenworth. Like that's definitely a little bit more like maturity there. So you had support there?
So my parents didn't really have me in the studio. I started liturgical dancing in the church, which is like very conservative. You have on this big dress to dance in that comes all the way up to your neck. Wow. So it's like
definitely not body conscious.
Definitely not. Yeah. So when it comes into like commercial dancing or the dancing that I did that was more seductive in a way, they wasn't in support of it. But they decided to let me just venture and understand like where my path was. So I appreciate them for doing that. But in the beginning, they were questionable for sure.
It's so interesting because I just read Jessica Simpson's biography. And I always find it very interesting when you come from a very religious background and you start to grow into, the femininity, the female form, your female power, right? And there's always this kind of, I think, shame that goes into wanting to get into that power and associating it with, being like a naughty girl. I mean, that's literally what I felt like when I was younger. So for me, I was always, I tried out for pom-pom. I made it, and then my parents made me quit. And because they were like, nope, not doing that, women who are in pom-pom and cheerleading, they're there to get guys hot and bothered so they win the game. And I'm like, what? I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Yeah. So my heart was kind of, it was always torn and conflicted. And then by the time I got to college, I was like, screw it. I'm doing whatever I want. And not out of disrespect out of my family. I just love to dance. And and it wasn't to turn on the boys. It was because it made my body feel good. So talk to me about your journey from going from church and kind of worship dancing. I mean, and then where it transitioned, where you started to go into more choreography, music that is not religious, and what that felt like for you.
Yeah, so when it comes to dance, for me in the beginning process of it, I didn't really know like the pathway of where dance would take me. I just knew that it was something that was fun to do. It was just an activity. So when I first got into it in the church, it was for ministry. So it wasn't for the mental to think like I'm entertaining you all in the church to see my moves. It was more so for the audience in the church to hear the music and understand what the connection was with God.
Yeah.
So we just interpreted that, and then from there it was like, okay, ministry is my thing. I love to minister and bring out what is being told in the music, if that makes sense.
Yes, completely.
And so I veered that into like choreography in school. So I started in middle school with show choir. Show choir was nothing I was really looking forward to, just because it was like one of those things that's like with the kids who can sing and dance and they're cool and they're talented, and I was just thinking, I was so intimidated by it. So I was like, this is something that's out of the box, but I'll try it. And once I got into show choir, like no crazy dance movement. All it is like presenting yourself and singing and being like pretty much. There's a few steps, but other than that, it's your presentation on the stage. So once I got into show choir, I was like, wow, this is something that's fun. I can do. I'm capable of doing it, and it wasn't bad. You know what I mean with the music. It was like Elvis songs. What other songs? It was just like Broadway songs. It wasn't nothing too crazy. So my parents loved that. And then I started to choreograph. So once I got into high school, I got into a show choir, and they decided that, hey, you're so good at steps and moves. Let's have you be the coach to choreograph for routines. And that's when I stepped into realizing like I'm capable of making up my own steps. And then once I graduated from there, I didn't go to college for dance. I was more so in sports. So I did show choir and dancing on the side. And it wasn't something I pursued really. But sports was something I loved as well. I did track, volleyball, basketball, and I wanted to be in the WNBA, girl.
No way.
That's
so cool.
For the longest I wanted to play and be on that stage. So didn't get a scholarship for it. And so I went to college without a scholarship, just with financial aid and the parent loan. And then the second year I was in college, my JUCO school, I just got into a show choir there. I didn't even know I would be able to. And there at that school, they had dance classes to take, and that's when I first got into dance classes.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool.
And it just opened my mind to like every genre of music, every genre of dance, and it opened up my mind to know what else I can do without thinking it has to be so seductive or evil or like I had to tell that to my parents and explain.
Well, you had to kind of deprogram your brain too. I had to as well. And I'd like to know, when you first walked into a dance studio and started to learn 8 counts, or the first time that you started to really understand that although you hadn't been in a studio when you were younger, that like it's what I like to call, we all have like an inner savant in us that just kind of knows it. It speaks to our soul. Can you talk me through that moment of like being in the studio? Was there a particular song? Was there a teacher? Was there a group of women that like, I'm always curious about when the bells go off and you're like, no, this is the aha moment. This is like the epiphany that I'm a dancer.
It actually took me a minute to understand that the studio was my home. When I first got in there, I was scared, just because it was so many good dancers in there, and it was my first time in the studio, and they've been in the studio at a young age saying, oh, I've been in the studio dancing since I was 2, or I've been in this for a minute. Like it was their comfort, and for me it was so uncomfortable. So it took me a good year or 2 to get comfortable. It wasn't really the students that was in there. I was in a predominantly white institution with the school, so I was singled out, and it was hard for me to think with my figure that I would be accepted.
Isn't it amazing too? I've been in several dance studios, how no matter how hard people try to integrate, if your teacher is white, she's going to dance in a white body, right? If your teacher is black, she's going to dance in a black body. And I know that for myself personally, there are so many different things that are in my DNA. So for Iranians, like Persians, there's a lot of like wrists and shoulders and this kind of almost flamenco-esque feeling. So that just came into me because I saw it in my dad when he would dance. With my mom, she was always in ballet, so her posture was always really regal. What I found really hard for myself was my hips and the shame in moving in my hips. So like I became really flowy up here, but the bottom part of my body, even bending my knees and getting into the haunches of the primal body, I had to go to a few classes and a lot of like movement therapy. There's a beautiful form of dance called Gaga, and it's very like in your body and like shaking and trembling and all this kind of crazy stuff. And I remember going to this amazing just retreat weekend of learning how to get into my body that way. And it's the first time that I felt like I love a deep bass, right? And it's this primal kind of beautiful, like earth mother vibe. And when I worked at S Factor Studios, which was like pole dancing, there were these beautiful African-American women, and they would just get into their hips and they would just, they would be feeling every single inch of their body. And I just remember feeling like so disconnected from that. Did you ever have something in your dance movement, like when you were learning, like for me, hip hop or Zumba or anything that's like, I don't know, like even when I think of like, you know, South American dancing, I really have to like let myself go. Is there a form of dance where you're like, oh girl, like, no, my body does not respond to that?
Ballet was when I had to, even though it's like the structure of everything with dance, like I tell all of my students and all anyone who's an instructor, like ballet is important as a structure, but that was like the main thing for me that I had to try to tap into and see how to, you know, get my body to structure in that way. Because when I initially started dance, it was through hip hop. It was at the barbecues. It was at, you know, any family function. It was liturgical dancing is a lot with like hip movement and expression through the chest and a lot of footwork. And so for me with ballet, like being that it was more structured with like susus and, you know, keeping your back straight and, you know, your head has to be at a certain angle. Like it was hard for me to stay in that.
It's a little cold, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very cold and very limiting. And at the same time, it's beautiful, but it's very controlling. Controlled. Yes.
So for me, I just had to tap into that quickly, and I somehow just naturally adjusted to it based off of looking at other dancers, doing my research off of, you know, Black Alvin Ailey, those their dancers. Just because I can't, like you said, fully relate to somebody who is a white woman or somebody who is Hispanic or somebody, you know.
Well, your lines are just different.
It's just different.
I mean, it is literally skeletal structure. I can't change my skeletal structure at all. I can gain a little weight. I can develop my muscle. But at the end of the day, your skeletal structure is what you're born with. Can't change bone. And what I love to see now is what I call these hybrids of dance. I mean, obviously Misty Copeland, who was a prima ballerina, but now like what she's brought to opening up the doors to the ballet world of like, no, power, strength, getting down into the earth and then rising up versus like, you know, I think modern dance, that's what I really like. I love that feeling of just no holds barred. So now, where do you say your forte is, like in terms of dance, choreography? What do you like to focus on?
Commercialized choreography, commercialized dancing. So for me, I teach hip hop, jazz funk, modern, and tap. So those are all for me just very expressive type genres to you can integrate it the way that you want. There's a structure to it, but you can also, with hip hop, you can be grounded, but also know to move your bodies in so many different ways to where it doesn't have to be like that one certain thing.
Yeah.
Same with jazz funk. Like there's jazz and then there's jazz funk. With jazz funk, you can bring your own personality into it. You can fuse different like dance genres in it and have it be jazz funk. So it's like, for me, commercialized dancing is all about that.
When you think about choreographers, dancers, movies, shows, moments in your life that just the goose flesh just went right up and inspired you, like you wanted to run back in that studio, blast that song you heard, or start to create in your body. Can you talk to me about those moments, if you have a few off the top of your head?
Yeah, I have so many movies I love. Honey.
Yes.
Honey is my go-to.
Oh, such a great film.
I can look at that movie like 5 times a day. Probably not with my husband.
Yeah,
but
I love it.
But with Honey, any Step Up movies, any of those. When it comes to Broadway's, Cinderella, with Brandy.
Yes.
I loved that energy that was brought into that film, even though it was a lot more acting than dancing.
Yeah.
I loved the music to where it made me want to move.
Yeah.
With Whitney Houston singing all those songs, I was like, oh, I got to be in this movie.
Yeah. I love that. I love hearing about what are the things that kind of imprinted on our soul of our calling. And it's cool because when those movies or those pieces of music come back on, it brings us to that time to where you don't feel like those moments where you feel uninspired. And that's always tough because no matter what, no matter how much you love what you do, there are moments where, at least I have, to where I have been around other dancers who've intimidated me, or they've created something where I'm like, oh my God, I'm not at that level. Am I good enough? Talk to me about how, if you've ever experienced one of those moments and how you came out of it.
Yeah, in college.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was at my JUCO school, there was moments I definitely wanted to give up just because I was not what they considered was like the dancer image.
Yeah.
Even going into at KU and the dance company I was a part of, UDC, it was interesting even from the instructors to have them tell me like, oh, you're more fit for this. When it comes to being a dancer in Atlanta, you'll get booked for these type of jobs that require you to have to shake your ass, or wear seductive clothing. Like, and people telling me, don't just make sure you don't get into things that can veer you into the wrong direction, become like a stripper. Nothing against strippers.
Oh no. I have strippers. Love for strippers. Yeah. But not every pathway leads to that. And I think that it always gets a little strange when, with dancers, especially ones that don't fit a certain look, a genre, all of a sudden it's like, well, you're good for this, but honey, you probably could make a lot of money doing that. And you're like, excuse me?
Right. Wait a minute.
I'm like, thank you, but no. Isn't it? It's kind of funny because I was there myself, and I mean, I was in New York, and they were like, well, great, but why don't you become a circus performer? And I did. I did more like cirque type stuff.
Oh, okay.
Because my body was older, and because I didn't have I felt like my age was getting there, and plus the capacity. I was really good athletically at doing it, but like part of me just wishes I would have toughed it out. So how did you pivot? Because now you're in choreography, so you're the boss. You can kind of create whatever you want. But how did you find that will or strength to defy being like, okay, fine, I'm not going to be in this dance production, but I'm going to create my own?
Having confidence for sure was the first thing for me, is knowing like I can't have people tell me what I'm capable of or what I can do or cannot do. And so when it comes to performing, I love that to this day. If I get booked for a gig, I'm on that stage. Like, that's my home. But choreography, the pivot for me was knowing what my brain is capable of creating. I'm left-handed, so when it comes to being creative, I'm just like one thing after the next. I want this. I want to do this. I want to try this. I want to figure out this. And I wanted to open that up more and more versus being restricted. So it was just the confidence to do so and create. I connected with a lady here, Elena Page Thomas. She is huge in KC for just knowing so many people. She's danced with Beyonce. She's been on stage with Genuine. I was on stage with her with Genuine as well.
That's so cool.
And so I've experienced a lot with her to where she pushed me as a mentor to create, to choreograph. And that's where I found my home was, creating choreography to put people in certain positions and, do moves that people are not willing to do or wanting to create.
I love that you mentioned that. I think in the dance world, people get very, they get protective once they have established kind of a community or a name for themselves. It's refreshing to hear you say out loud a mentor right away, because I do believe in, especially the arts, it's so important to cultivate other artists, because it's such an easy thing to quit, because we're told be practical, you're not going to make any money doing it, you live in Kansas City. I mean, all of those things. So talk to me a little bit about that relationship and how she became a mentor to you, and what it now in turn is going to help you in terms of mentoring another woman.
Yes, me and Elena Page met through Genuine, through that audition. I actually didn't audition for it. I was brought in from somebody who saw me as potential. And so with the choreographer, who is EJ Sachs, for that production, he's an amazing dancer here as well. He had me take a few of his classes, and Elena Page, she was a part of them as well, to see, how I could move, what I'm capable of doing. And from there, being in the rehearsals for Genuine's performance in production, I was like, wow, this woman is powerful. Like, she's really dope. And for me, I didn't want to shy myself away from wanting to talk to somebody like that or feel intimidated. So I just, connected with her. We talked, and from there she was just like, let's have you, I want you to be underneath my wing, and I want to teach you a few things that you're capable of doing. Because I kind of just opened up to her and let her know of my story as a dancer. And she was like, wow, you are amazing. You're good at this and this and this. You need to work on this and this and this. And I'll get you to this point to be as confident as you need to be. And at this moment, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about it, but she has a agency that she's building at the moment.
Yeah.
And she wants me to be a part of. And that by itself is such a humbling moment. Yeah. And it's a gratitude, just because I've seen where she's come from and what she wants to do, and for me to be a part of her business, for the dancers here in KC and outside of KC, it just says a lot to what she saw in me.
Of course, and I think it reaffirms your resolve to give back yourself, because I mean, you come from a family that is number one, a religious family who brought in a very, I mean, from what I read in your bio, you have got such a solid background and a growth as a child. And then you have this woman who comes into your life who shows you nothing but kindness and understanding. And then you experience the pageant world, which can be brutal. I mean, when you did the Miss Black and Gold and then going to Miss America, I can only imagine what that might do to your capacity to give back, because I do believe, I mean, there can be amazing experiences in the pageant world, but there can also be a lot that is is conflicting. So talk to me about how you kept that resolve within yourself to not be pushed aside, because the dancing world, the pageant world can really, if you don't have a clear path right away and you don't have people on your team right away, it can destroy your heart. So what strengthened you? What strengthened you during that time? Did you meet her during that time of the pageant?
The pageant, I met her before that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So before getting into that, I had a support team.
Yeah.
But the support team was not aware that Miss Kansas, that world was like such I don't know, it just geared me into a whole nother world of what Alyssa's about.
Yeah.
It kind of pushed me into trying to figure that out for myself.
Yeah.
So the support was just there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're killing it out there with Miss Kansas. I see you, girl.
Yeah.
Versus me internally thinking like, oh my gosh, I got to prepare for this with sponsors and like try to have a dress and try to be presentable in this way and, you know, be around a whole bunch of girls that have been doing this year after year after year, and I'm just getting into this. So, and I honestly was doing it for a scholarship.
Yeah.
I needed something for the next year at KU.
Yeah.
So when I was in there, I didn't really have a team to get me ready for Miss Kansas. I had some mentors here and there to tell me like, this is what you need to prepare for like any questions or with public speaking. This is how you need to, you know, present yourself. Gave me little like pointers, but I never really had a mentor throughout that process. So the transition was just me and doing my research. Like I love just watching people.
Yeah.
And I'm a dancer, so I'm more of a visual learner, and I observe and based off of that learn. And so when I would watch how people would present themselves on stage for Miss Kansas, like Haley, I would be like, okay, that's how we do it. That's how you're supposed to do it. So that's how I learned and transitioned. And just for me, my mental was just like, let's figure it out.
That's so cool. If you have any advice for younger women who are looking to get involved in the pageant world, what would you say?
Please stay true to who you are. Please stay true to who you are. Don't let any other contestant that is in there intimidate you or feel like you're not worth it. For me, I was in there, and every second I was thinking, what am I going to get out of this, and are they going to even see me?
Yeah.
Because I was the few out of the black girls that was a part, and the black girls that was there didn't talk to me.
Yeah.
They didn't. They wanted to like keep themselves in what everyone else was doing, like smooth their way in and not present themselves out. And nothing against them, you know what I mean? Like you got to, when it comes to being in the world of being a pageant girl, like you just gotta like kind of, I don't know, blend in a way.
Well,
Oh,
sorry to interrupt, but I feel like a lot of it goes in line with the control factor too, of controlling your emotions. It's also a competition, and then on top of it, you already feel when you go into that world that, you know, whoever you are, you already feel like there's got to be someone better than me. Because it is a competition.
It's a competition.
So, and you know, if you have a competitive spirit, which
I do.
You know, it is. It's like that, but it's that weighing out of beating yourself up, but then also understanding that the pageant world has really had to do a lot to get with the times. And I don't know if they're still with the times. I know a lot of people who would disagree and say they've done a lot of, you know, good work to now update themselves. Get Donald Trump out of it. But in the next breath, I know I always have to put it in there. I'm sorry, people. I have an opinion. But
you're free to it, yeah.
I just feel like it's so refreshing to hear you speak to the fact of, if you are going to do it, like, and if you want to have a camaraderie with other women, like all they're going to do is say no. And I mean, you might as well try instead of
Yeah.
just putting up those walls and being like, I mean,
Right.
it's exhausting.
You do get something out of it. It's not like you leave with nothing. Like, I got a scholarship for $500.
Yeah.
It's something.
Totally.
Versus thinking like, I just put all this money. I mean, I put more money into it than I got out, but it's something.
Well, and it's going to be something forever that you take with you as a learning experience. And then going forward, when you pay it forward, whether it be through mentoring or philanthropy, you have an experience of raising money for something like this and seeing what the outcome is. So going forward in the future for yourself, where do you see yourself giving back? What are organizations, philanthropies, or things that you're interested in that you're interested in? Sorry, that's like 50. You're interested in.
You're fine. I want to give back to urban communities that are less fortunate when it comes to dance. I didn't grow up in dance because I was in a family of 8. That's a lot of kids. So for me, my parents didn't really think studio would be in the expenses, which is fine. We found it elsewhere. But I know for a fact when I stepped into studios to teach and see the amount of money kids would have to pay for like their outfits, for competition, for auditions, like the list goes on. It's just so much to have to pay for, to where I wouldn't know what to do with one child in the studio. I mean, for you, I don't know how you, when it comes to studio, how long you were there or how much
it was so expensive. I mean, to a point to where, I mean, you just get to a point where you're hemorrhaging money to just keep training and to make yourself current.
Yes.
And to know that you're not losing your edge. And I'm like, my old body's getting old here, like, come on. I need to see some money coming out of it. But,
So with that being a thing, I want to just help out the urbanized communities to know you can come to classes for like $5. Get good quality training. And through that, build your own self-confidence and understand where you can go with it and be educated in the right way versus being just thrown given the amount of money you pay for that type of quality. Like you'll pay for something that's worth its money and at a high quality and get the training you need. I want to do that for my community, for my Black girls, for not just Black girls, but those who are less fortunate, so. It's
cool because you radiate independence, but in the next breath, you have such a solid partnership with your husband. He literally became a dance partner for you. Will you? I wish my husband was my dance partner, but he's like, he can two-step. I cannot two-step for the life of me. He's hilarious.
Two-step?
He can. His Panamanian butt can do a little two-step. I'm like, you can do that, but come on, babe. He's cute though. When he gets drunk, he gets a little bit of his little, spice in him.
See that.
He's a lot of fun. You'll see him probably at the Christmas party.
Okay.
But I talk to me about just because again, that independence. It's really hard to trust to partner up with someone. It's like you don't want to trust. You don't want to trust. And I definitely know because, your husband has the chocolate muscle as his tagline. Right. So it is a very sexy tagline there for his Instagram. So talk to me about establishing, like bringing down the walls of your independence and allowing someone to dance with you.
Yes, so I had to be at my 100%. I had to be at my 100% before being with him. So independence was like huge for me. I had my own apartment and my own place for a good minute for 3 to 4 years. Like 7 years. That 6 years I was in 7, 6, 8. That I was in college. So just being by myself, I was very comfortable with that. And having my own stuff, having my own things organized. That transition though wasn't too hard because I shared my life with 8 people. Yeah. So growing up with that many people, when I was brought up, my mom and dad had a house of just 3 bedrooms.
Oh wow.
So 4 in
close
one.
quarters.
Yes.
Yeah. Intimate.
And very intimate. 4 in one bedroom, 4 in the other. Yeah. So I'm used to being on my own, but I'm also used to having like closure from, or just that intimacy with people. So when I met Brandon, I honestly, it just naturally came for me to want to, hang out with him more and see like how he lives, what he does. The biggest transition for me was trust.
Yeah.
It was trust. I was, before him, cheated on 3 times.
Yeah.
So in college, I mean, men are immature.
Yeah.
In college, so I can't.
They're immature in their 40s. Let me tell you that right now.
True
Lord.
that.
Yeah.
But when what I mean? In
but
general,
I know in their 20s they're freaking nightmare ladies.
Right.
Yeah.
Very, very. So for me, knew, it was just an experience through college. So being cheated on, it's tough.
Oh, it takes a long ass time.
Very long.
It's like a tick.
It's like, God dang it, get off. Yeah. And so for me, I had to figure out how to transition out of that with him. In the 3 years we've been together, it'll be 3 years on the 11th of November, that for the first year of us being together, it took me to just sit back and think about my situation and understand that not every man is the same.
How did he propose?
Oh, girl, he did a good job.
Yeah.
He did a good job. It was when I came back from New York from my girls, they had a modeling gig out there for Fashion Week, New York Fashion Week. And so I was out there with them and took a few dance classes out there and auditioned for a block agency. And came back here on a Monday on the 11th of February. And he surprised me because on that day I had to get back. I was a part of a dance team called the Twisters for a basketball team out here called the KC Tornadoes. And performing on that same day, he decided to give me a performance on the floor, on the gym floor, to tell me if I would want to marry him. And he had a performance with all my dance friends. And
that gives me goosebumps.
Literally for me, it was in the middle of our performance. So when we were done with our performance, I left off the gym floor like, okay, I'm done. I'm tired. I just came back from New York. I'm going to go home. He told me he couldn't make it. So I'm like, all I want to do is see my baby.
Yeah.
And then when I see him yell my name while I'm walking off the gym floor to look at him perform with all my friends, I was like, what the heck is going on here? And, we've always told each other, 4 to 5 years until we get married. And when he did that, I couldn't think about what he was doing. I was like, what are you doing here on this gym floor dancing for me? Am I getting a new car? Because my car is effed up right now. So
I love it.
But he proposed, girl, and literally my heart dropped. My whole family was there. His family was there. Ended up getting on the news with that performance because Hy-Vee Arena was in the process of being built, and that was the first time anyone's done something like that. So when we got on the news, I was like, all I could think about was, wow, this guy really did that.
That's amazing.
He really did that. So I was very caught off guard by it.
What is it like to dance with him?
Oh, amazing.
What does it feel like?
It feels like magic. Because he can move his hips. He can, he got good rhythm. He can pop and lock. Brandon got some foundation.
I love it.
But, we went to Johnny Cos for our first date when we went out together down at Westport. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to show him all my moves. I'll be honest. I was like, let me just chill back.
You can't handle the heat. I love it. I love it.
Let me just chill back and let you, give us a few drinks. But he opened me up. Yeah. Everybody that was there thought we were together. Oh. And he tells me this all the time. He was like, somebody came up to him and asked him like, hey, is that your girl? Like, are y'all dating? He was like, I'm about to cuff her here in a good minute. That's the one. And so ever since that day, when we was at Johnny Cos, I was like, I love, because we was dancing and grooving. He opened me up to, move with him. He was crumping a little bit. We were playing games. I was like, you are fun, dude. And then we just.
I love how she said, dude. I love it. That's amazing. I love it. Yeah. What's the song? What's your song with him?
We got a lot of songs.
Give me a couple. What's the song that's like the words in it is just like that's our relationship, and then number 2, the song that when it comes on, his hips move, your hips move, you're going to get on that dance floor.
Daniel Caesar, any of his songs we dance to, that just gets us in the vibe. And then to have our hips moving, Maxwell.
Oh, God, yes.
When we hear Maxwell, it's a whole nother. We go into the corner somewhere. We're like, let's just have this moment.
I love it. I love it. If you could just create something, a piece, a choreography piece, what would you theme it on? And then talk to me about where you would like it performed and what kind of dancers that you would like to have.
Ooh, a whole production. Okay.
Yeah. Because I feel like you got it in you. I feel like you got it in you. You've got a lot to draw from. I mean, come on. You don't have a spiritual background. You don't live the life you did and audition for some of the greatest artists that are out there, and then have the kind of love that you have and not have the capacity to create something big. So in your wildest dreams, if I could give you a unlimited budget, talk to me about what, first of all, the theme that you would create around, and then two, the kind of dancers you would want, and then where it would be at venue-wise.
Yeah, so for me, freedom. It would be freedom, the foundation of it. The piece, I would just want a few. Yeah. I would just want a few, not a huge production to where I can use the whole stage.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been through a lot.
Yeah.
And not a lot of, and I'm so thankful and blessed to be on this with you. When you asked me, I was like, wow, like I was caught off guard by it. Because no one ever asks me about my story. Yeah. And want to know. Because I've been through some shit. Yeah. I will admit that. And so when it comes to I don't know why I'm getting.
No, you should.
But with
you should feel it, because I mean, come on, give me a fucking break. You can't dance the way you do. I've watched some of your stuff, and you dance in a way that's like it's freeing to watch you dance, and I think it's so important to live in it and to own it, because that is where your greatness begins. And I could feel it the way your husband talked about you. I was like, I got to know who this woman is.
Right. And it means the world. So when it comes to like what I want to show to the world, and what I've been through, or any woman's been through, it would just being aware of the fact that we can be free to express what is on our mind, be free to move the way we want, be free to, think that we're capable and we're not held down to think, oh, money with this, or being, talked about like this, or I can't do this. You know what I mean? Like, just having the freedom to be like, F that, and I can do this. So definitely freedom in knowing that the two girls I would want is Lorianne Gibson. I love her.
She's amazing.
She's amazing. Lorianne Gibson. And then the other dancer would be Elena Page. I love her, my mentor. Yeah. And then me on the stage with them. And the song I would do it to, it would definitely be like Alicia Keys vibe, like something soulful.
Oh, I love her. She's a good woman. She's just a good woman.
I love
everything about her just radiates goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very, like, my dad, he thinks I look like her all the time, and I'm like, I don't see that. And even Brandon, he's like, Alicia Keys, I can see that in you. And I'm like, yeah, I love her music. I love everything about her. So Alicia Keys, and the place I would want to have it, would be on the stage of New York, where Michael Jackson. What is that stage where Michael Jackson was on?
Not the Apollo. It's not. I'm like, the Apollo. That's not it. It is not the Apollo. It is. God, what is it?
It's in New York.
Yeah.
But it would be on that stage where Michael Jackson had his performance. Any Michael Jackson stage would be dope. Oh. But yeah.
Isn't it funny? I've talked about Michael Jackson a couple times on here, actually with Giovanna, because we talk a lot about just. I mean, I had his poster on my wall. He, I understand, controversial person, and he was a tortured soul, and but I experienced nothing but joy listening to his music, and I think it's so important that he's not someone who cried a lot. And he had a lot of pain in his life. And I think that it's so important as an artist that you show, you don't have to, what I call, when some people just are just pain like volcanoes and you're like, whoa. Yeah. But it's so important that people experience, see and feel where the creativity, the inner artist comes from, because you can't create light without darkness. And you can't enjoy being in the light unless you have experienced really hard things. Yeah. And I wish more people would speak to that kind of that pathway that brings you into the light, because it's not easy to get there, and to stay in the light can be exhausting. Yeah. It can be exhausting. And sometimes we need to go into that little shadow space and protect ourselves. And it doesn't always have to be gutting and kicking you down. It can literally just be, I'm burrowing away. Yep. And I think that that's where artists need to have more conversations about the struggle. I think Black women right now, give me a break. When I say hand over the fucking mic, it's like I am handing over the mic, because there are so many women in my life that have brought so much to me, and they are Black women. And it's the first time in my life where I probed and asked the questions, because there is such this capacity within Black women to hold it in and to not show the tears and be this epitome of strength and guardedness. And the vulnerability is always like, oh, it's too much. And I'm like, no, give me a fucking break. I want to hear it and I want to learn from it, because the women this year in my life, Dr. Auburn, Chandra Clark, these are women who they have changed me. So I will tell you, please let the tears flow, let the laughter be loud. I want you to create a fucking show, because the way that your man talked about you was you were a queen. And I'm like, I'm sitting across from you now, and I'm like, you are a queen, and I cannot wait. I literally rubbing my hands. I'm like, yes. So I guess as we wrap this up, and people are listening, what are some thoughts that you'd like to share? I mean, I know that you've created a business with your husband, and I know that that's a really beautiful part of your life. But it's not the only thing, and you're not just a dancer. You've been through so much. So when you think about the future, what does it look like, and for yourself? And then what's your advice for the people listening, especially the women and the women who look like you?
Yes. So when we're in this world moving the way we do, and getting the things done that we need to day by day by day, just for me, and for others, we get lost into not knowing, because we're not perfect, what I mean? We get lost into not knowing where our destination is, when that's not the most important thing. But when we don't have a goal or anything to reach, it's always just day by day type of thing. I would want to challenge everyone to understand where you're going and why you're going through the process you're going through. To where, for me, for example, I don't want to just do dance. I want to inspire other girls to know how far they can go, and realize that whatever they want to do, they can make money with it. Whatever you want to do, it's what you put in it and what you invest into it. because my career as a dancer, everyone told me definitely not. Yeah. Almost everyone told me that, just because of the money, but if you really invest your time and energy into it, there's nothing you can't do or God can not do for you with what makes you happy. And so for me, that's with dance, that's with fitness as well. I did powerlifting when I was in high school. And so that was like, I don't know, I felt like a Hulk woman. Yeah. Like, it felt so good to just be like, I'm a strong woman. And even though I, may look manly in some areas, which is not bad. It's like, not even have to say it's manly. Like,
it's about your masculine and
feminine.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I can
More
have
men
that too.
Got to get their feminine on. That's what I'm saying. They got to wear that Gucci. I'm telling you, put on a blouse, gentlemen. Yeah, come on.
You know what I mean? It's not that big of a deal.
Takes a real man to do it. Wear some pink.
Right. No. Right. Brandon, you look good in pink. Do it. So when it comes down to that, though, do what's best for you. If you're happy in it, for me, it's fitness and dance. I'm going to go all in for it. With Abs, Alyssa and Brandon Sweat Sessions, I'm going to go all in for that and do what I can and have whatever God gives me for that. Do that and keep going. So I want to further that for sure. I want to be in a fitness bodybuilding competition. Try that out. Just see, how it goes for me. And mark that off the list to say I did it. So many other goals, but I would challenge everyone to just put yourself in position to understand why you're doing what you're doing. Yeah. If you don't know why, then there's no actual point or destination. And even when you reach that destination, figure out another destination. Yep. Keep building, because this world, there's so much room for so many things.
And we got one life on this earth.
Facts. Yep. We got one life. Yep. So
I love it. I love you. I will say that I love you, and I mean those words. I think you and Brandon are just a shining example of people who lift each other up. And I think people will really gravitate not only just obviously to the two of you, but you together as a force. And I really, as we close up today, I will tell listeners and viewers where that they can get a little bit more of these two, because their energy as a couple, it's contagious. Mm-hmm. And when I say it's contagious as in, if you woke up and you're like, they're the two people that'll be like, come on, let's do this. So where can people find you on social media, your business?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So my Instagram is Alyssa Rivera Official. And his Instagram is @chocolate_muscle_. Look, it's so funny. I'll just little
he might have to change that name to Chocolate Gentleman.
Exactly.
Chocolate Husband.
Exactly. It was funny. We was working out one time, and people would consider calling me caramel muscle. I was like, definitely not. That is totally not a thing. I'll keep it at Alyssa, but we'll see what happens with that name. It's a trendy.
And people do know him by it. It is, but it also is that one thing where you're like, hello, I gotta wiggle those shoulders when I say it. I love it.
Yeah, people love it, and then we do have our own Instagram called ABSKC, ABSSKC.
I love it. Well, I am so glad that you guys listened to this episode, and if you haven't listened to I don't know, I can't say the better half because they are equal parts of amazing, but definitely swipe up, subscribe, and you'll get a chance to also listen to Brandon's episode. They both should be listened to. And trust me, they're the kind of episodes you want to rewatch because they have so much insight into marriage, into being partners, and just living this life and being honest. Thank you so much for your vulnerability today.
Girl.
I'm so glad you came, and I can't wait to have you guys back to see what happens in 2021, because I think it'll be a big year for you guys.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. And again, I'm Serafina Rocha. This was a Seraphine podcast, and you better subscribe. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.